We're still stuck, quarantined. So coming up on Nerdcaster, with the lack of news that's come out, we're going to be talking about our top 5 Sega games of all time. Next. Hey, welcome to Nerdcaster. We're back with another episode. It's me, Joe, and over virtually on is Justin. Is lighting?
What's going on?
Yeah,
I am adjusting my lighting. It's fun. I love doing this stuff. Yeah.
This fucking COVID shit sucks, man. It would be so much better to do all of this in studio.
Yeah, I know. You gotta make do with what you got, right?
Yeah.
Not much else to do about it.
I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting so tired of it. But since, there's nothing much in the news lately, I figured let's do something we haven't done in a while. Let's do a top 5 list.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
So I hit you up earlier, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about our top 5 Sega games. Now, I don't know about you, but Sega is a system I did not have. So I had to go to a friend's house to play the Sega Genesis. So my list, I didn't get to play that many games for the Sega. My list is not gonna have any deep cuts on it, I don't think.
So you did not get to experience any, I guess, some of the weird ones. So like Ranger X is one of them. I was talking about that before. I'm just going to show that off because it's pretty dope, and I'm pretty happy that's in my collection. There you go. We got some Ranger X there. It is making like a little shaky sound, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I got to pop this open.
Does it still work?
It does. It still works. So it's possible that just something insignificant, I guess, broke off in there. It's kind of insignificant. Who the hell knows? I could reach a certain level, then the fucking thing just blows up. But it's something I'm definitely going to take apart and try to take a look at because that can't be great. Or it could just be a piece of plastic. That's what I'm hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maximum Carnage. I don't know if you remember this game. It was for Super Nintendo.
I do remember that game. I did play it on Super Nintendo. I did not own it. I actually had to rent that from a Blockbuster Video.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that I love that game. That game's a lot of fun. And then they had another Spider-Man one that was basically Maximum Carnage, but it was called Separation Anxiety. And that you could be Venom, I think Carnage, or it was Venom and Spider-Man, but that was a solid game. So you didn't have a Genesis growing up?
Nope, I never had any Sega systems in my house. We only had Nintendo to PlayStation after that.
Okay.
I had a friend who lived 2 doors down from me, though, who had all the Sega systems. So we'd go to my house to play Nintendo. We'd go to his house to play Sega. Shout out to my good friend Evan. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, truth be told, I never actually did either. It was just not something I had. I had a Super Nintendo because, I was cool. And yeah, man, never had a Sega Genesis until it was like 1920. And yeah, I've been collecting for a while here and there, on and off. I was, 36 now, which is terrible. But yeah, I finally got one. And then I will honestly say not until 33, 34, really getting back into all this because, adults, house, money, I can buy this stuff again. So I started going back and collecting a lot of my old stuff and, just stuff that I had. And I ended up getting an inbox complete Sega Genesis Model 1 because the Genesis had 3 different models. Mm-hmm. There's the Genesis Model 1, Model 2, Model 3. Model 3 was like the really smaller, compact one. And if I remember correctly, the Model 3 didn't output RGB, an RGB signal. But Model 1 and Model 2 did. So I have Model 1 and Model 2. fun fact, Model 1 did not do stereo out.
Mm-hmm.
Only stereo out from the headphone jack, the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack in the front. So thankfully, with technology and how awesome it is, now you can actually just take. They make cables that are basically like RGB SCAR cables or these HD Retrovision like component cables that will actually have a little 3.5 millimeter jack that goes around into the front, and you can still get your full stereo sound out of it.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
the only one I think I'm familiar with one is the version 1 of it. I know not the smaller one, but I think that's the one my friend Evan had. Was the
Most
V1.
likely. That's when everyone thinks of the Genesis, that's really what they think of, right? It's the Model 1. That's what the Sega Genesis Mini was modeled after, was the Model 1 Genesis.
Mm.
I like the Model 2 better. It just had, I believe, a better sound processing chip, and it was stereo right off the bat. You didn't have to go through that little breakaway cable scenario. Yeah, man, that was they had some solid games. And
So
Sega always advertised as blast processing. You remember the commercials? Genesis does, Nintendo don't.
yeah.
And they were very aggressive, super aggressive commercials back then. They're like, "You have a Sega Genesis," and the kid's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, then, fuck you." And he's like, "Holy shit." God
Mom,
damn,
buy me a
Sega.
Sega Genesis. The TV told me to go fuck myself.
Yeah.
So,
This gangster dude on the television just told me to eat a bag of D.
so again, since I didn't have it, let's start with you then. On your top 5 list, what is in no particular order, what is one of your top 5 games for this system?
So top 5, that's always rough. Definitely it's gonna come down to Street Fighter. Street Fighter is always gonna be my top 5 in one of my systems. So it's not gonna be this guy, mainly because it's kind of, it wasn't too special. I didn't think so. I thought the special one was the Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition. Now, you know how I know it's special? Because it literally says it on the fucking box. So that's why I was like, holy shit, this is special. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. I don't have the manual. I wish I did. I don't. But yeah, I like that one a lot.
Nice.
It kind of sucked though, because when us in the U.S. When we got the Genesis, and I think even PAL users went through this. When we got the Genesis, we only got the 3-button controller.
Yes.
We did not get the lovely 6-button one. And I'm like looking around for a Genesis controller because I know I have one laying around here. But I'll show that later. But yeah, we only got the 3-button one. So to play games like Street Fighter was kind of a pain in the ass. You actually had to hit like start or select or some shit, and then that would kind of change the medium, light, heavy like moves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
And
was
didn't you
weird,
have to,
man.
like, on certain games, hit double buttons to be a single button, like A and B at the same
Yeah,
time, and B
yeah,
and C? Yeah,
yep.
I
Yeah, it
remember
was
that.
super weird. But it got the job done, I guess. It just didn't get it done how you wanted it. But it was still pretty cool. It was fun. So if we're going through this top 5, definitely Street Fighter Special Edition.
Sure.
That's one of my favorites.
So I'll give my top of the list,
Yeah.
because I have a fighting game on my list as well, but it is not Street Fighter. It
Okay.
is the original Mortal Kombat for the Sega.
It's the
And
Blood Code. Or Blood.
yes,
Yeah, well,
I
it's Blood.
I preferred it for the Sega for that reason over the SNES, because I had the SNES version. Again, my friend had the Sega version, and the fatalities were just so much better in the Sega version.
Yeah, well, because you have the blood.
Yeah.
If you go back and actually play those, the like, I don't want to say the sprite count, but the Super Nintendo version actually looked better.
Mm-hmm.
But the Sega had I believe the Sega sounded better, but
Mm-hmm.
also had the blood code. Which
Yeah.
when you're that age, you're like, I don't care what the fuck this looks like. Just show me some blood.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, you cared a little about the graphics because when you saw that on the screen, you were like, "Oh my god, this looks amazing!"
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
the height of technology.
So I was a big fan of the Mortal Kombat series over Street Fighter, and I
Yep.
think that's where it started.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
we can
Yeah,
move on to your next
yeah.
game.
All right. I'll do number two. Number two. Just did that before. It was a nice poop. I enjoyed it. So number two over here is Mega Turrican. This
Mm,
game,
I don't
this
even
is a
know
pretty
that
rare
game.
game. Um, I heard of, I think it was Super Turrican that was supposed to come out for the Super Nintendo, then it didn't. And then I think the Analog has their Super NT, which is their FPGA like clone console.
Hmm.
And I think they released like a physical cartridge with that one. But Turrican, I believe, was the original. And yeah, Super Mega Turrican. Huge fan of the game. I'm sorry, Mega Turrican. This one was for the Genesis. It's a great game. I highly recommend you try it out one day if you can, or next time you're here, whatever the case is.
Yeah, what's the
Play it
plot
on
line
your
in this
original
game?
console.
Is it like a side scroller? What
It
genre
is
is
a
this?
it is a side scroller
Hmm.
platformer for the most part.
Okay.
You basically get some crazy weapons and some upgrades to weapons. Very Contra-esque in that sense because you will destroy like a box and you get a weapon. You get a subset of a weapon. Then you destroy another box and then you get that weapon, but you lose the previous weapon.
Okay.
So it's Contra in that way, in my mind. But it was
Hmm.
just kind of innovative with some of the stuff you could do. So you had like a little grapple hook thing, and you could like kind of use that to swing back and forth to reach to another platform. It was just, it had, shields and stuff like you could get, like if you were, I don't know, fucking Sonic, right? In
Yeah.
Sonic, you could always get like the little break open one of the CRT TVs and get a shield.
Well, speaking of Sonic, that game makes my list. But Sonic and Knuckles, I did not
Okay.
care for Sonic, or Sonic and Tails, or Sonic Two.
You
Sonic and
don't like
Knuckles,
Tails?
I didn't mind that game, but when Knuckles was introduced and you could play him in Sonic Three, or Sonic and Knuckles, I thought that was a better game. I liked playing as Knuckles. I liked the whole gliding aspect they added to his character.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was a big fan of Sonic and Knuckles.
Knuckles the Echidna. Did you ever
Yeah.
see that? I'm sure you saw the meme with the Echidna
The
from, I
way.
guess, yeah, show me the way. I will show you the way.
Yeah.
Another favorite of mine, so we'll do this number three now.
Hmm.
I'm going to have to say Gunstar Heroes.
Again, another game that I'm not
Yeah,
familiar with.
so good. I don't own the physical cartridge. I'm looking for it. It is a great game. It is just, I don't know. You get so many different variations of weapons, and like, it's not just one weapon is going to be the best weapon. Like, you sometimes have to choose a different weapon to use against a boss. Like, one weapon may be better to use against a certain boss than the other. Is
Hmm.
how it played out.
Okay.
But same thing, side scrolling, just straight shooting, or jumping here and there and stuff. But solid game, loved it. Gunstar Heroes, one of my favorites.
Nice. Um,
Glad you say dinner.
So going to my number three, and again, these are in no particular order. I did play a sports game that I really enjoyed for the Sega Genesis, and that's Arch Rivals Basketball.
Okay, all
A
right.
game where you can like punch people and steal the ball and play. I enjoyed that in arcade game, and then seeing it and playing it on Sega, I enjoyed. If we were talking SNES, I would have to go with NBA Jam, but I liked Arch Rivals better on the Sega.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's because I played NBA Jam on the SNES. I never played it on the Sega, so Arch Rivals
All
takes
right,
my
all
vote
right.
here.
I'm gonna okay. Arch Rivals. I actually don't know if I ever played that one.
Mm,
I know of it because I know it was the competitor to Jam.
yep.
Um, so number four over here. I'm
Hmm.
gonna go Castlevania Bloodlines.
That almost made my list.
Great fucking game.
Yeah. Um,
Amazing game.
I've fun fact, I have never beaten any of the Castlevanias. I never
Really?
owned any of the Castlevanias.
Oh.
And I've only played them like renting them at Blockbuster or some video store or again
Okay.
at friends'
Okay.
houses. The first, what was it, Castlevania 2, where climbing stairs was a fucking painful experience.
All right. Well. Okay. So Castlevania 2 for NES. Simon's Quest, is known to just be a terrible fucking game. It is not well received. It does not play well. Thanks to the modding community, the game has gotten a lot better. So there's hacks for it, and it does make the game a lot more tolerable and a lot better. But yeah, right off the bat, that'll leave a bad taste in it mouth as far as the Castlevania series is concerned.
So, like, after that, I never really gave Castlevania a fair shot other than, like, there's nothing else to rent here. I'll try this, I guess. I did enjoy the Castlevania list. Like, that is one I do remember playing. That is one I rented multiple times. So, I did enjoy that game. And by rent, I mean my friend Evan rented it, and we went to his house to play.
Fair enough. All right. Okay. So, yeah, that was probably one of the better Castlevania games. Right up there. I'm gonna put it right up there with Super Castlevania.
Okay. And I heard like some of the PlayStation ones were really good too, and I again never really played them.
I highly recommend Symphony of the Night, like everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
It is a great game. It really is. I highly recommend you playing it. Even if you're emulating it, it still plays perfectly fine. And you can even, up the resolution on it a bit, speed it up so there's no slowdowns on it. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can do. It is a great 2D but 3D aspects of a Castlevania game. It's amazing.
And the next one that makes my list is and the puzzle genre, and that would be Dr. Mean Bean's the Mean Bean Machine.
Jesus.
Dr. Robotnik.
Dude,
I still play that game today. We have it for pretty much any system, any emulator out there, and it's a game that we could throw on, have a few drinks, shoot the shit and play it. Like, it doesn't require much thinking at all. It's just entertainment in the background for us.
It's a puzzle. Of course, it requires entertainment or thinking. I'm terrible at puzzle games.
Dude, and the music,
it had a good soundtrack.
Yeah, as simple as the soundtrack is, it was good. So, I felt I had to throw that up because it is a game I must have played just as much as Tetris, actually, or Dr. Mario.
Okay. All right, that's not a bad game. That's a good call. Number 5.
Yeah, and this will end our list.
Oh, yeah. It's hard because if you do a number 5 of like JRPGs for Sega, there's a lot of games that I would mention. And we could do that another time.
I can't do that because I've not played any RPGs for the Sega.
Really? Oh, man.
So there's stuff like Phantasy Stars and those.
Force.
What's that one?
Shining Force.
Yeah, those games have been. I have a list somewhere of games that need to be played, and I put that in air quotes here. And a lot of Sega RPGs are on that list that I've just never gotten to.
It's a good game, man. Sega had a lot of solid RPGs. They even had a Zelda, A Link to the Past type clone that a gaming historian actually just covered. And I was hoping to grab the game, but it goes for like $6,000.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's pretty fucking expensive. But I would say number 5. Oh, what would be a good game? I don't want to say Streets of Rage because that's just going to be too on the nose, and I'm pretty sure it's your number 5.
It is my number 5, Streets of Rage 2. And again, like I said, none of my games are going to break the mold because I didn't have a Sega, so I didn't get to play like all those other games. I only got to play what I played at a friend's house. So yeah, Streets of Rage 2, no explanation needed. If you want, go watch me play it. There is a video on the Nerdcaster YouTube channel of me beating the game, so go watch it.
I'm gonna pull one out of my ass here that I only ever got to play via an emulator, and that's disheartening. And I believe this game became available at first only through X-Band or Sega Net, one of them, whatever their service was. And do you know what X-Band is?
I do know what X-Band is. I'm wondering if I know the game.
Okay. It was Mega Man, The Wily Wars.
Did not know the game. I
It
find that crazy.
only available on Sega.
I find that crazy because Mega Man
Mm-hmm.
is associated with Nintendo.
Primarily
Yeah.
Nintendo, yeah. Until it hit, PlayStation era. But yeah,
Hmm.
Mega Man the Wild for Sega Genesis.
And what was this game about? Was it a standard Mega Man game, like the
Standard
classic?
Mega Man, just on the Genesis. A little bit of a added on story or different story, however you want to put it.
Mm.
The characters were cool. It was just fun to see Mega Man on the Genesis. Uh, Yeah, dude, I can easily write you up like a list of solid Genesis games to play, and you'll be like, this is actually a lot of fun.
The problem I have nowadays, going back to the Sega, and call me crazy or I'd like to see some of these games ported where I could play them on a newer system with voice acting or updated graphics at this point. Unless I'm in the mood to play a nostalgia game, like going back and playing it on emulator and stuff like that. Because Fantasy Star is on my list to do. I do want to hit some of those old school Sega RPGs. It
There's, yeah,
it's just going to be
yeah.
hard for me to go and do that now. So it's going to be few and far between when I get to them.
So the problem with, I mean, so you're talking not even a port, like you want to essentially, I guess, a remake at that point,
Something just to update them a bit, but
or some one of those like HD remakes,
yeah,
or
something simple like that. But I will go back and play them in the old school because there is something about playing it retroly, as it was made, the way it looked when it was made. The
yeah,
problem I have now with being so, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Spoiled, I guess is a good word, with how everything is now. I kind of want everything to be that way. But I do get nostalgia. I do go back to play Mean Bean Machine and stuff like that. It's just the reading of games and reading the dialogue. It's a little harder to remember who says what when you're reading it and then going to grind for 4 hours and remembering what happened. That's my problem.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the game you're playing, right? If you're playing an RPG, uh, yeah, that's going to
That
be a problem because it's very story based.
yeah, that's
But if
that's
you're
what I was talking
picking
about.
up something like you know, fuck Space Harrier or Gunstar Heroes or what was that rocket fucking raccoon game? It was like a wallaby, but it had like a jetpack on. I can't remember, but either way,
The only
good
one I
game,
can
great game.
think of is Arrow the Acrobat, but that was for the SNES.
No, it wasn't Arrow. It was some other. I have a list up here that I'm trying to go through. Fuck, it doesn't matter. Um, but he had like a rocket on him. If someone remembers, then fucking say something. Uh, but yeah, that game was awesome. But games like that, or Shinobi, Comic Zone. Comic Zone's another great game. Uh, you know, Altered Beast. I'm surprised that didn't make my list.
Oh yeah,
But
I did play that.
those aren't too story driven games. Like those you can go back and play. But
Yeah.
what I do want to touch on real quick is so you know, I love emulation. I love physical hardware. I love collecting games. I love playing them the way they are meant to be played. The problem with emulation sometimes is that it you have input lag. You have latency issues. You have input lag, especially when you're playing something really fast paced. You're playing an RPG. You're not really gonna notice that because you don't need that button
Mm-hmm.
timing. And the biggest thing is that you get like 2 to 6 frames that it's missing, and it's never steady. It could be 2 frames you're missing. It could be 6 frames you're missing, and that can really fuck up stuff. What I did just pick up was it's called a FPGA. I got a Mr. FPGA. This is basically a form of emulation, but what it's doing is it's emulating at a hardware level. It is emulating the hardware. It's got a reprogrammable chip onto it. It's not like a Raspberry Pi where it's emulating the software, and it's actually weaker than a Raspberry Pi, like by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the difference is that you don't need that extra power to make up for the software level of it. Since it's emulating on a hardware level and the chips are reprogrammable, you just load up these cores, like you would in any other emulator or RetroArch or something like that, and it is a 1-to-1 hardware accuracy,
Hmm.
and it is fucking fantastic. I got it yesterday. I was up till like 1 or 2 in the morning messing around with it. So far, there's a RAM expansion board that I ordered. I'm waiting for that to come in, but it's just default right now. See if I can show this little guy real quick. They see this little thing?
Yeah, turn that around one more time. Yeah, it looks a little bigger than a Raspberry Pi, but I don't know if that's just a camera.
It actually have a Raspberry Pi right here.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
It is bigger than a Raspberry Pi.
That's pretty dope. I like the case.
And the Raspberry Pi is actually still stronger. But the point with this guy is that, like I said, it emulates on that hardware level. So it is really one-to-one. There's no input lag, and you can do things like increase the sprite count for games. Because in the older games, if you remember, a lot of them, you got hit, like they would kind of flicker. And you don't get that with this because you can increase the sprite count.
Oh, nice.
So, and you can change the palettes to how it used to look, or an RGB palette, or what it would look like on a Sony PVM or a BVM or a standard CRT. And there's little adapters where you can, it has HDMI straight away, or you get a little I/O board that sits on top of it like a hat, and you can do VGA to component, so you can plug it into the back of the CRT.
Nice.
And still get that like nostalgia feel.
And how much does that thing go for?
Really cool.
Yeah, that looks really cool. You're laughing. That scares me.
So, all right. So we'll take like a Raspberry Pi. So this is a 3, right? This is like $35. Yeah. Or a 3B. This is a 3B. This is like $35. Or it might be 3. Doesn't matter. This is a 4. This is a Raspberry Pi 4. And that is, what, 50, I want to say now?
Yeah. They're a little bit more expensive.
And dual HDMI out, all that cool stuff. $50. This guy, about 150. Then the RAM expansion module was 40 or 30, and then they do sell like a nice like laser cut metal case. That's $50. Then they sell the I/O board, which gives you some physical buttons on top that you can actually like reset, restart, power on, stuff like that. Nice. With a little PCB fan on it. Yeah, I mean, and then they have a USB extension hub that kind of clicks onto the bottom of it as well. So it has a lot of attachments. They do cost money. This thing is not the most cheapest thing in the world, but it depends how much of a purist you want to be. If you want that accuracy, then you're going to go for something like this.
You're damn right, because button lag is it's so annoying.
And it's a thing with the mini consoles, even though they're made well. There is still input lag because they're not tiny clone consoles. Although maybe they should be. How much they charge for some of these damn things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that little guy right there, it does everything up to they're working on PlayStation. They're working to nail that. Right now, they got everything, you name it, DOS, Amiga, Commodore, NES, SNES, Genesis, Master System, TurboGrafx, PC Engine, TurboGrafx CD, PC Engine CD, like Neo Geo, all of that. And it's all one-to-one hardware accuracy. Like, it truly is an amazing little device.
And what's that called again?
The Mr. FPGA.
FPGA.
Yep.
Just writing that down.
Yeah, it's up there, but it really is an amazing little device. I had TurboGrafx on it without the expansion board, and ran fine, man. It ran good. Core loaded up, game loaded up. I was using the PlayStation Classic controller. Just it pretty much any USB I plugged into it, it's been working flawlessly.
Nice.
Zero problems with it. It's great. It really is, and all the stuff you could do with it. So, highly recommend it if you're looking to game classically, but correctly is I guess how you should put it. But it is not meant for a baller on a budget.
Yeah.
So, just a heads up on that.
All right. Well, you got anything else you want to add? Because I'm good.
I got some indigestion.
Nice. What was for dinner?
It was orange chicken.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Got some indigestion now. Other than that, yeah, no, nothing, man, nothing.
All
Just
right.
work, daily life, and trying to get shit done.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, let's just close this out, and you can go
All
take some
right.
antacids.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone. Nerdcaster out.
Later.
Later.